Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sadhaka, the Facebook Live show presented by Embodied Philosophy, where I interview different practitioners about various practices from yoga practice to meditation to even today's practice, which is a practice of Yantra. Today I'm with Sarah Tomlinson, who's the author of a really wonderful book that I myself have gotten a lot of use out of, 9 Designs for Inner Peace, the ultimate guide to meditating with color, shape, and sound. She also has just created a wonderful Oracle, Yantra Bliss Oracle deck that we're going to talk a little bit about in a little bit. So with that, hello Sarah, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
It's really nice to have you. So to get started, I would love to hear a little bit about what got you into the practice of Yantra in your own yoga journey.
Well, I actually was an artist, a
Okay.
visual artist, and I got deeply into the practice of yoga. And through the creativity of teaching yoga classes, I left my visual art to one side. And then I met my teacher, Harish Johari, actually in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a yantra with him. And I was just so happy to kind of reunite art and yoga.
Yeah.
It felt like the practice was everything I felt in my yoga practice, but I could then bring in the joy of working with the visual. So it really spoke to me in a way that, really like redirected my life path. It was a very powerful moment.
And what year was that?
97.
Wow, great. And you actually went to India to study with him, is that correct as well?
Yeah, 98 and 99, and then actually he left his body shortly after. So I had just a few years very intensely studying with him.
Amazing. So where did yantras come from? For those that are newer to yantras, they're geometrical symbols. In fact, why don't I'll bring them up on the screen, and maybe if while they're kind of flowing through, if you want to talk a little bit about where these images come from, like what the philosophy behind them is, the history.
They come from a series of mantras. It's said that the original sound vibrations, mantras, came from the rishis, the seers, and they were in the celestial realms, and people on the earth realms were trying to understand how to live more in harmony with the gods and the sacred, bringing the sacred into the everyday. And the rishis would hear mantras, and they would understand the universe was constructed with these qualities, and to bring harmony they had to recite these mantras. And then as they were reciting mantras, they started to see in front of them yantras. So actually there's one yantra for every mantra.
Yeah.
I mean, I was taught a certain number of yantras, but really they're infinite.
So really, the yantra, in a sense, is the visual form of a mantra.
Yes.
So it's kind of like as a result of practicing mantra, you get yantra. They can't really be separated. Is
That's
that
right.
correct?
Yeah.
So do you find that there a lot of times that knowledge has been lost? It seems like we know of mantras, we know of yantras, but it seems like there's a lot of people that don't understand their correspondence. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, but I also think some people are more drawn to the visual.
Yeah.
And some people are more drawn to the audible. So I don't mind them being practiced separately, but it's very powerful if you do bring the two together.
Right. And then something in your book that we'll get into, I'll show it in a second, is you're actually inviting people to create the yantras themselves, and you offer it as a practice, as an actual yoga practice, to draw these yantras. And when you're drawing the yantras, are you also chanting or reciting the mantras?
Usually the drawing is kind of this very focused activity where you start by knowing the mantra, but usually the drawing is silent, and then when you start to color them, that's when I invite people to use a mantra. It's kind of soothing, and it's very engaging and absorbing to chant the sound as they're making the, like kleem, kleem, or shreem. It's just like a seed sound that'll kind of bring the yantra to life. It's said that the yantra doesn't really come to life until it's been
invoked or something. Yeah.
Energized by the mantra.
Amazing. That's cool. It's such a cool practice. So I'm going to turn off this little yantra slideshow that I have here, and I'll show. Actually, I did one. I used this book. This is her book here, 9 Designs for Inner Peace, and during a really rough time, I started creating my own yantra, and I got to this point where it's the kind of you can see it there, yeah.
So there we go.
There you go.
There we go. You
This
were better
way.
than I
There
was.
it
There
is.
you go.
Yeah, you can see
lighting.
it's just kind of the drawing of it. I hadn't started painting yet. Actually, because I was so pleased with how it looked with pencil, I was afraid I was going to screw it up when I started painting. But it is beautiful. Even just the geometry of the tracing and the practice, and then having the kind of the boundary lines it's just beautiful.
Yeah, the construction lines, everything hangs on like a grid. The north, it's like the directions, the north, south, east, west. So it makes you very peaceful just to kind of locate yourself on this grid of awareness, your place in the universe.
What do you think it is about geometry that's so like calming?
I think there's something very fundamental about it. It's kind of like the building blocks of everything, right? Everything is basically a primary shape of some kind. And before language, like this kind of language, I feel like, the more universal language is actually this language of shapes.
Yeah. Like
symbols.
And they call it sacred geometry in a way. These kinds of fundamental building block symbols that are seen at sort of everywhere across the cosmos, as far as we know.
Yeah, and through every different religion, and like for example, in lots of them they have the six-pointed star. I don't know if you can see that very well. You can just see that in the center. So people often say, is that the Jewish star? Is that this? Is in different cultures they have a different meaning.
Yeah.
Right? And Tantra has its own meaning. What the six-pointed star means, so then I'll teach that, but it's kind of fun to see people relate to the yantras from different traditions and different backgrounds.
Yeah. It's really, there is something very universal about it. So I wanted to just show a couple of pages, just kind of show what you're getting yourself into here. So there, as you can see, she goes through, this is sort of a practice. Yes, there it is.
It's very step by step.
It's very step by step, and she goes through and explains each step how to create the different phases of the yantra. And I mean, it's pretty fail safe. I mean, as long as you're good at following the instructions, you can make something that's
it's like a recipe book for.
It's a recipe book for yantras.
And this book is specifically about the 9 planetary yantras. So it's a unique practice to do with balancing yourself by balancing all 9 aspects of yourself.
Amazing. And what are those 9 aspects of yourself?
So like the sun, the moon, Mars.
And is this somebody that's into astrology would obviously respond to that. Oh, that sounds astrological. So, but this is grounded in, is it Ayurvedic astrology? So it's not necessarily Western astrology.
It's not, but the archetypes will still
are similar.
Yeah.
Great. And then, so we have the planetary yantras, and then what other kind of yantras do we have?
So the other series of yantras I work with are the goddess yantras. So the planetary yantras are usually used more for nourishing different areas of your life, like nourishing your physical health, or nourishing your relationships, or nourishing your career. But the goddess yantras, they're like from a tantric series of yantras called the wisdom goddesses. And these are really for empowerment. So usually things like just getting out of your way, cutting off all your fears, cutting off all your worries, just empowering you to live your life. So they're all kind of fierce and intense, and when you make them, you feel, empowered. They're very interesting. The goddess yantras are a whole series, and they empower you to cultivate different qualities, like fearlessness, or courage, or strength, so that's the other series. So there's a series of goddess yantras and a series of planetary yantras that I work with, but really they are infinite.
Amazing. So we're going to, Sarah's going to lead us through a practice of one particular yantra, and is this one of the goddess yantras? I can't remember if this is the planetary one.
It's the moon.
Okay, it's the moon. That's right. Okay, so I'm going to bring that one up, and if you want to talk a little bit, Sarah, about the symbolism of it first, and then if you want to invite our audience out there to kind of move through a short meditation, if you'd like.
Yeah, I was feeling like doing this one today. So the moon is the yantra associated with the heart center, and the quality around it is to do with nourishment, like nourishing yourself, being kind to yourself, and then extending that kindness and nourishment to those people around you. When we
need that right now, nourishment.
We need this nourishment. I was thinking about this in relationship, even to this environment, this post-election moment. The idea of extending small acts of kindness to people, it feels really kind of liberating and revolutionary, right? There's something we can do, right? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we take care of other people and not expect Big Brother to do it?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of scary and really unempowering, and that's why I think everyone's really angry, but actually if they can turn it around and make it, these acts of kindness. So I was feeling like the moon yantra would be great, and the colors of the moon yantra relate to the pearl, because there's a gemstone for each planet. And so it's like the shimmering iridescence of the pearl and silver. So a lot of that gray color is actually silver. So shimmery and reflective like the moon. So it has that changeable quality. And it allows us to tune into cycles and phases, just like the moon, is new and full and fluctuates. So taking care of ourselves in different ways at different times of the month. And usually when you look at a yantra, you look at the dot, the central dot. So if you look at this one, it's meant to be like a very pale bluey white in the middle. And you look at the dot, which is called the bindu. And so you look at the dot, and the rest of the yantra, all those petals, are in your peripheral vision. And usually when you look at the bindu, you recite the mantra. So the mantra for the moon is Om Cham Chandraya Namaha.
Om Cham Chandraya Namaha.
So Cham is the seed sound, and Chandraya is the moon. So you could even go out and look up at the moon and say Om Cham Chandraya Namaha. But if you can't do that, here's the yantra it kind of contains and invokes the moon's energy. It's really a beautiful, and it's very feminine, receptive. It teaches us to be receptive and increase our intuition. And again, not expect somebody else to make our minds up for us, but how about we tune in, listen to our own intuition, intelligence. And when you make it, there's two ways you can make it. One is drawing it from scratch with my book, unless you come to one of my classes. And the other one is, there are actually outlines at the back of the book, and I actually have a new coloring book coming up.
Oh, good.
That has the moon yantra in it. And so that's a nice practice, just to do the coloring. Sometimes you don't feel like doing the drawing, but to sit and steady your mind and do the coloring, it's very engaging to be absorbed in an activity. Because if you're doing an activity, then you can't be talking, you can't be on the phone, you can't be doing all those things that are just... So it's a really great form of meditation. It's called an active meditation. So that's one way you can work with it. One way is to do the coloring, one way is just to put the image in front of you and focus on the bindu.
Amazing. So there's the practice of actually creating the yantra yourself, and then the practice of, either finding a yantra that works for you, that makes sense for where you are in your life, and then using it perhaps with a mantra or perhaps not. You say you can do both.
You can read them all.
Okay, amazing. So one thing that I really love about yantras is that when you're meditating on them, and I find this especially when you're chanting as well, that the shape, like the whole yantra comes alive. I mean, it really changes, and your perception of it shifts really dramatically. Like the petals will move, things will pulsate. All of a sudden, a shape that appeared one way changes and appears another way. Do you attribute that to that kind of I don't know how to put it, but there's just something, that captivation of the yantra to its power, like its ability to move and to reshape itself?
It might just be you.
Maybe.
It is something like that, though, because it's what you bring to the practice.
Totally.
But at the same time, there is really a deep, pulsation in that specific yantra. There's a reason why there's 16 petals. It's said to be 16 rays of the moon, and so... Yeah.
I mean, I think the only other time I think I've seen those kinds of shapes is on a mushroom trip.
That's what I was feeling. It was like it's a little trippy, but it does get a little psychedelic when you. There's just something about your peripheral vision. It's interesting, and I'm always curious. I'm a teacher of this, and I'm always curious to see what people's experiences are, and I feel like I learn the most really from that.
Yeah.
So you're having that experience, and someone else might have a different experience, and then oftentimes you gaze at it, and then you close your eyes, and then you can still see the shapes within you, and it's like it's working through your nervous system. Each part of the yantra will be like clearing the nadis, or the subtle energy, say in the heart center, or in the periphery of your body, or in these chakras, or so it is working you. So that's what I'm feeling. When it's working you might start to see something different going on.
Right. Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna close that down. So now I want to talk a little bit more. I want to go a little deeper on the practice itself. You had sort of offered before we started the interview that one powerful thing about these yantras is that in a culture in which everything is new images all the time, a yantra offers us something consistent to work with. So how does one use a yantra? Well, first of all, I guess the question is, how do we know which yantra is appropriate for us at any given time? And then what is the appropriate use of yantra? How long should we use it? How long should we incorporate it into our practice to really see an impact or to see a kind of reverberation?
So there's two things. The second thing is the how long. You have to remind me about the second thing. So the first thing is, one way is actually just to look at a selection of yantras and see which one you're drawn to. Because if you do it intellectually and say, oh, I need this, for example, the Lakshmi one, I need money or something, and you want that one, but you don't really like it, it's not going to be as powerful as choosing, say you really like this one. This is the Triple Bhairavi, right? This is a goddess. So this is the one that's a little bit like Ganesha, and its energy, it removes obstacles, mental obstacles. So actually maybe if you were looking at a selection and intellectually you were thinking, I need Lakshmi, but you kept getting drawn to this one, go with this one. Because what I find is oftentimes maybe it's the mental obstacles that are in the way, which is stopping you from getting the Lakshmi. So the teaching is going to be speaking to you in this way that you just can receive it by looking at the images. So I've always really enjoyed this process, and this is also why I created this deck of cards, so that people can do this at home and start to trust their intuition about what they need. Right? We all want to go to a therapist to find out what we need, but actually deep down which color you like, which shape you like. So it's very kind of simple. It's not intellectual.
Right. It's an intuitive thing.
It really is. And then the second part of your question, and if you really can't decide which yantra you like or where to begin, then I do these yantra consultations, and they're based on kind of Jain astrology. So that can be helpful, just to kind of clarify a little bit what the issues are, because sometimes there's so many issues. It's sort of helpful to have someone to talk to about it. But then I'll suggest one yantra to work with, and then usually we work with them. We try and stick with one, back to the monkey mind, one for 40 days at least. And usually at the end of saying hi, so say I choose this one, the mantra for this one, the bija mantra is Swaha, like Swaha. I offer it to the fire, Swaha. And if I did 40 days of saying Swaha and sitting with this, I might just sit with it. I might color it. I might make it. I'll do something with Tripur Bhairavi every single day. After 40 days, I'm pretty Swaha at the end of 40 days. Something probably within me will feel really invigorated, and I'll have removed any qualities of doubt or uncertainty. This one really clears away doubt and uncertainty. And then usually something outside happens, like, you get that phone call saying, would you like to, fly to Tokyo to do something? Or would you like anything? Just something you've been wanting that before you doubted could happen. So it's kind of interesting. You feel an inner shift, but then usually in your life that's reflected pretty dramatically. Something happens. So it's kind of like, could you commit to an inner practice, this 40-day sadhana of, awakening the energy, whether it's through drawing or painting or just putting the yantra up for 40 days and saying the mantra at least once a day. You could do 108, or you could do it once. And then see what happens, and then it's just you tuning into your subtle body, which chakras feel like they're affected by it, how does your digestion feel, how are you sleeping? I mean, it really has a huge effect on your energy circuitry. So again, it's this curiosity, what's going to happen if I go with my intuition, I go with the one I was drawn to work with, and then at the end of 40 days, and sometimes I get phone calls, I made a yantra in your workshop, actually oftentimes it's this one, and you can't believe it. My whole life has been turned upside down in like 30 days, And by 40 days, wow, that was amazing. That was so powerful. Like, it really is dramatic.
That's amazing.
It really is kind of, I'm just sort of, so curious and kind of amused at the intensity of these. Once you decide to do it, most of it is the decision to do the practice, right? Even with your yoga, you have to decide to go to class.
So it's a practice that can kind of change in how it is expressed each day. So for one day I might be drawing the yantra, another day I might be painting the yantra, another day I might be like just gazing at the bindu and chanting the mantra. So it can change. It doesn't have to be the same kind of meditation every day.
No.
Do you have any suggestions on like how much time per day should be spent with the yantra?
I feel like there should be one or two really good sessions at the beginning, whether you're doing a coloring of it or drawing it from scratch, or just like a couple of days to really soak in the energy. After that, I feel like you can be more flexible with, putting on your screensaver and taking it around with you and doing other things. And then maybe just periodically doing another longer session. So I feel like you do need to do some longer period of time with them. Yeah. But still, it's amazingly effective just saying hello to it once. Can you imagine? Like taking one deep breath on it every day. This to do with the repetition. It can be helpful if you do it at the same time every day. The mantra and the yantra.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like you're cultivating a relationship over that time, and you do kind of give it life. There's like a life-giving quality to working with these yantras, I've noticed.
Like what you put your attention on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Attention and intention. Amazing. So let's talk a little bit more about these cards, this is her newest offering, and it's sort of hard. The image, the lighting is making it difficult, but some of them are on kind of principles, right? Some are principles, like here you can see gratitude. I'm just angling it because that's the only way to get away from the light. Here we have preservation square, so then it talks about specific shapes.
Language of sacred geometry.
Yeah. And then you have things like, okay, here we have Bhuvaneshwari, which is one of the goddess yantras, correct? So is in the Yantra Bliss Oracle deck, we're working with just the goddess yantras, or is it with both?
It has planets too.
Oh, it has planets too.
There are 24 yantras in it, and you're right. The goddesses are popping out today.
That must be. It must be for me. I think.
Yeah,
I think it's my energy I'm needing. Actually, I think the one we were looking at.
The Saturn is very good for your vitality.
Okay.
So when we do these astrological readings as part of it, which I've only partially done for Jacob, but I have done some. I remember in his vital body he has Saturn, right? So when you have that, it's very good. See, here's this kind of simple one. It's got these deep blue colors. And it's very good to have a clear environment, simple. Especially your space is kind of clear, right? Simple, plain. And silence is really going to be the thing that increases your vitality. So sometimes when the physical body is feeling like it has symptoms, working with the vital body is really helpful, because it's kind of like the energy it's like going for acupuncture or something. It's like getting your chi moving, your prana moving, is to work with your vitality. So oftentimes the planetary yantras can be used as remedies. So for him, I'll suggest the Saturn yantra, like really like clean and clear and simple, and more periods of silence. And hatha yoga actually is governed by the planet Saturn.
Yeah.
So silence and your yoga and your breathing is really helpful.
Oh, good. Yeah, she's bringing this up partly because I was having coughing fits before we started this interview, and so I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, silence,
Saturn. I also like the other one, the removing of mental obstacles. That seems like a good one as well. So, okay, so let's... I would love to start to, if you want to have any, final thoughts about yantras and how we might incorporate them to practice, and then of course I want to share with the audience where they can find more about you and how they can and get one of those online consultations or in-person consultations if you happen to be in their area.
The closing thoughts. There's so many. I don't know. Once you start working with these, you start to appreciate the colors and the choices of colors that you use in your rooms. And so I think it's just an invitation to start using color and sound a little more like judiciously, like really noticing what effect the color is having on you. And like, do you need plants in your environment? And, like be careful what you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Your mind it picks up what is reflected in the environment. So kind of be really judicious about the environment you choose for yourself. Yeah. And something about working with the senses in this oracle deck and with yantras in general, it really heightens your awareness of the things that are nourishing for you, people, places, and then the things that are, feel like they're draining. So just the feeling that you can be empowered to make your own decisions.
Yeah.
So it's actually a bigger kind of suggestion I want to leave you with, rather than just how to start using yantras.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, because I think that we don't really think about in our culture the power of color or the power of sound. You know, it's sort of like, oh, color is just like personal preference. It doesn't really have, people don't think of it as having an energetic quality to it that can actually shift your experience of space. Oh, hello, Rashmi. Rashmi has joined us.
Even what you're wearing, you know, like the
Yeah.
colors you're wearing, is really, you know, really either healing or it's starting to stagnate your energy. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great practice. So I'm
So what
excited
would
to
you
share
say if
this.
you could prescribe? Oh, we did the nourishment one, but if there was another yantra that might sort of speak to where we are culturally at the moment. I know it's hard to do general yantras, maybe, but is there any other yantra that you could think of that might be worthwhile looking into for those that are feeling a little, I don't know, drained from the cultural milieu?
I really was feeling the moon yantra.
The moon
was
one.
so helpful.
Okay.
There's two things. It's funny we're thinking about these planets. The sun is really good for taking care. I'm not great with cats, you know. The sun is kind of good to, when you want to think globally, like thinking globally and like peace. You know, may everybody, all beings be happy, right? Then you might want to start thinking about the sun yantra, and really for yourself and making peace with yourself, like peace begins with you, and then it's more working with the moon yantra.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Hatha, sun and moon.
Sun and moon. There you go. Interesting. Wow, this has been super great. So for those of you out there who are just joining us and you didn't catch the book before, her book Nine Designs for Inner Peace is an excellent book. It explains how you can draw and paint yantras as a part of your own personal practice. And then the Yantra Bliss Oracle deck, which is actually being released in next week. Is that true?
It is true.
But you can pre-order right now online on the website yantrabliss.com. Is that correct?
Yantrabliss.com.
Yantrabliss.com. And then is that where everybody can find about you?
Yes, everything. Where I'm having classes, consultations, more about the deck, more about yantras.
Excellent. So, so what do you have any workshops or trainings that are coming up in the New York City area for those that might be, or
I'm
anywhere?
having a painting workshop in March, actually. Next month,
Excellent. March. Okay, so
Yeah,
anybody who's
check the
watching this
calendar.
before March, check the calendar and
Sign
check out
up.
yantrabliss.com. And Sarah, we'll hope to see you there. All right, thanks so much, Sarah. It's been really
you.
wonderful. So to close, I'll just pop up our little text here. If you haven't yet joined our mailing list, where you can receive updates as to when we're doing our next Sadhaka interviews, as well as our podcast Chitheads, as well as all of the writings that we feature on our blog, which explore the various traditions of Eastern philosophy. You can also use the coupon code Sadhaka15 today to get 15% off any of the lectures from our video series on the Masterclass collection, which is at this little website here, fivetapas.com/masterclass. So that will be available until tomorrow. So if you're watching this either today or tomorrow, hopefully you'll check it out. All right, thanks again, Sarah. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone. And how do I turn it off?